Creators come and go, channels rise and fall. And for meme channels, the hardest part of staying relevant is the entropic nature of human culture. I'm Mr. J, and do I amuse you? Am I some sort of clown to you?
I hate my job.
In Richard Dawkins' book, The Selfish Gene, he talks about the cultural aspect of memes. To paraphrase Wikipedia, it's a unit of human cultural transmission comparable to genes, where replication happens in culture, but not in the exact same way as how humans pass on genetics. Be it the book is about 60 years old and times have changed, I still think that what he says has a lick of truth to how memes carry on in society. We find something funny, share it around, ingrain it into our culture, and pass it on to others. Memes that make a strong impact remain in culture for a long time, and ones that have the impact of a wet sock filled with bread tend to fade into obscurity. Just like how Dawkins' theory has changed and evolved, so too do memes. Now, the topic of memes as a whole will be for a whole other time when I finally have a chance to sit down and chart out everything, but let's digress to the main topic. You might wonder though, Mr. J, how exactly does this relate to meme channels? That is a good question, and one that can be answered with some personal history. Back in high school, I used to watch YouTubers and YouTube channels like Cowbelly, iDubbbz, Animeme, and a few shitposting channels I cannot and will not remember the names of, and a little bit of Filthy Frank. I used to laugh like a madman at their videos, having a good time with my brother giggling at the stupidest things they said, or the bits they'd put on. In truth, I enjoyed them for the span of 4 years I was growing as a person. I'd grab a bowl of chips, open my laptop, or fire up the YouTube app on my PS4, and spend an hour or 3 watching these guys in a blissful state, only to stop for family time or do homework. But as I got older, I forgot about them, unsubscribed due to not wanting notifications pinging me while working on college projects, and grew past my desire for watching them. I met new friends, found new opinions, and grew up. Eventually, as things settled down, I went to look back at the channels I once watched, and saw they had changed, for better or for worse. Mostly for the worst. That's the long and short of what I can remember. That begs the question, what causes these channels to sputter out and die? Now, what I'll say right here is going to be very brief because I want to dedicate a good chunk of the time here to examples of channels and not just spouting off talking points. So, the few things that I will mention that make meme channels short-lived is the internet takes the piss out of every meme at light speed. An unmitigated wave of instant gratification has ruined a lot of people's attention spans and humor responses. The relevancy and staying power of memes is a dice roll. Centering your content model around memes leads to short-term success and long-term failure, and memes naturally occur in culture, and trying to capitalize or synthesize them doesn't work out in the end. That's the long and short of it. The first channel that comes to mind when meme channels die out is iDubbbz. I know Animeme is pretty much dead, but I'll get to them in a moment. There can be some back and forth as to what iDubbbz channel is, but I consider his Content Cop and Kickstarter crap series to be the penultimate in meme content. They were fun to watch because admittedly, I found enjoyment with Ian picking apart and ripping on someone's asinine business idea or product pitch. Let's face it, when your average Jill or Joe just slaps a video together talking about their video game / TV show proposal or some elevator pitch for their big idea without having a prototype, a solid audience, and any sort of feasible plan or roadmap, you are going to get criticism and flack for doing that, and a lot of it. And I remember when Ian ate crow as he discussed the Wheeled Cooler Kickstarter project and gave a fair review of it. And aside from his most recent Content Cop, I found the prior ones interesting and enjoyable because Ian called controversial creators out on their hypocrisy, their actions, and their inability to take criticism and jokes from other people. And it was very few people, only 4 people if my numbers are right. And while I stand by the H3 video being complete dog water, Leafy being expunged from YouTube internally, and Rice Gum just naturally fading off YouTube and going to Rumble, Jinx wasn't able to find his footing and is the one creator Ian bested in verbal combat. And I never saw those 3 videos as him winning or losing, but a deserved dig at each creator because they assumed they were invincible. Except for this video is just Ian being a little shit and punching down. iDubbbz had a bite to him. He was dry and deadpan with a hint of snark. He had his caveats, obviously, as when you build your image with an edgy and juvenile kick to it, you tend to attract the kinds of people who are like dried snot and gumwads from under the bleachers or desks at school. And I'll admit, much to my embarrassment, that I tried to emulate him while I was in high school. And man, you could cut your hands touching my state of mind back then. But eventually, as I watched other things and drifted away from his content as he started moving from things like Kickstarter crap and Content Cop, that was what began my disinterest in Ian. Fast forward a few years later, and I learned he dropped this snarky attitude and became the human equivalent of a lukewarm boiled egg. Sure, he began posting less problematic things as far as I know and care, but Ian effectively killed his character of iDubbbz. He could have pivoted with his humor and style of content and done so in a way that changed his audience and outlook for the better, but he just fell off. And his friends, aside from Shoji and hopefully Max, Ethan didn't fare much better. I never watched him at all, but the impression I have of H3H3 currently is he's a washed-up comedy YouTuber turned political grifter who gets explosive when criticized. But Shoji fared much better because he has a skill, a marketable talent that will let him live long past his dead persona as Filthy Frank, and grew for the better because of it. He was able to break away from that life and hopefully improve himself and his world. iDubbbz lost his character. He defanged himself instead of learning to go with the punches, and now looks like some random office worker whose entire diet consists of White Claw, shaved roast beef, and foam packing peanuts. Heck, the best Ian looked in his life was when he was being filmed in the sewers by his friends, eating pickles. How do you look better being filmed in an undesirable location, eating pickles? For channels like Animeme, it's less personal and gets thrown in with the other random meme and shitposting channels. Why? Well, let me paint a picture. It's 3 p.m. You just microwaved something to eat on school break, and you go to boot up YouTube to watch meme channels because nothing else catches your eye. For a couple hours, they keep you entertained until you have to eat and socialize with the family. Then you go back to school and watch them in between classes and during lunch. It's a bit of mindless fun, and you get some brain rot like everyone did. I was stingy and Thomas the Tank Engine brain rotted with a hint of Taco Bell bong sound effects. Nothing wrong with that. But eventually, as time marches forward, something grows on you. Questions like, why am I watching these? And is there something more substantial? And it lingers. So you rewatch the channels, and the memes aren't as funny as the first time around. Or they flat out fail to make you laugh. Be it maturity, personal growth, or a serious case of burnout, you then start moving away from them because they provide nothing else. And that's the major drawback of all these guys you'll run through. At the end of the day, most meme channels like Animeme have a single gimmick or a line of content to follow and nothing else. Doing or consuming something without change or reprieve to that routine eventually wears you out. You're not dropping them because they fell off or whatever else we're gonna say. You're unsubscribing and moving on because channels like Animeme have nothing else to them. You want something more, and since they can't provide that service, you're going elsewhere to get what you want. For this channel, for these channels, the issue is that a content model deprived solely on the premise of making people happy through memes is flawed. Plain and simple. Now, we get to the last example, Cowbelly. To anyone out there who remembers the channel in its heyday and you're of age to consume alcohol, crack open a cold one for the OG channel. Or if you're not of the age to consume alcohol, but you still remember the channel in its heyday, crack open a root beer. Actually, I might crack one open with you as well, because alcohol tastes like dookie. Cowbelly, or Meme Farm Edits as it's known by now, if the name hasn't changed by the time I finalize everything, was once home to some of my favorite meme videos. Part of the charm was sitting down to watch Club Penguin with Cowbelly just screwing around and having a jolly old time. He was that guy who'd show up, shitpost for a bit, then leave and have a 10 or so minute video of Club Penguin ruined. Plus, we can't forget about the Comment Awards. I know it was nothing new back then, but there was something just magical about Cowbelly's channel with the text-to-speech bot and Club Penguin and the Reddit comment threads he'd go through that just made my day. I'd come home from my senior year of high school and my first year of college after doing homework and sit down with my brother as we giggle like idiots at what Cowbelly produced that week. I personally loved Club Penguin Ruin because the tonal whiplash of the jokes and crass humor caught me off guard in the best way possible. Unfortunately though, all things must come to an end. As soon enough, Comment Awards 100 arrived, and that was the beginning of the end. A few years ago, I still had a flicker of hope. Heck, Insignios can attest to that because one time in Game Club, I saw Cowbelly had released a new video with an Easter Island head and the Avengers theme playing in the background stating, "He's back." I went into a happy fluster and then nothing. So I just began doing other things. Fast forward to last year and I learned Cowbelly has been trying to run his whole operation like a business. Barely any of his old content is on his channel. He's got like 5 or so other channels with varying degrees of content, and everything is muted or corporately sanitized. It looks so depressing. And it sucks because you have Club Penguin Legacy. Cowbelly could have made a successor to his original series. Plus, he could have done something like Smosh Reads Reddit with his friends, or done anything other than this. I'm not saying it would have lasted forever, but he could have used this as a jumping off point to grow into something else, but failed to do so. And sadly, Cowbelly is now nothing more than a husk of its former self. Gutted by its creator, his content preserved by other people across YouTube, his presence slowly dissipating like a dry fart passing through the living room couch. You're probably wondering after hearing me talk for a while, like Mr. J, why are meme channels so short-lived as they are, man? Well, because of entropy. Entropy, in the simplest way I can put it, is the chaotic nature of life. Things can go from orderly and clean to messy and out of place in an instant. Nothing ever stays in the same place for long. Society changes ever so slightly, culture shifts in various ways, and people change for better or for worse, or move on a lateral plane of mediocrity. But in the end, it's the fact that from start to finish, life doesn't stay inert and unchanging. And memes suffer the heaviest brunt of entropy. Creating a career off of memes is a fool's endeavor because life, society, and culture is always changing. Even if part of your brand is memes, they're already facing a twofold problem because one, like with big corporations trying to use new or pre-existing memes to stay relevant and cool, it fails because it's topical and/or referential, meaning it dates the meme heavily. And two, rehashing and capitalizing on memes and their counterparts and punishing people legally or culturally for using them without your say-so makes folks less inclined to use your stuff or join in on the fun. Plus, when your entire business model is capitalizing on making people happy, you're opening Pandora's box. Humans aren't meant to constantly be happy, and instant gratification is why. You watch or read a meme, you laugh, and now that influencer or vein of memes is ingrained into your mind. You look at them again, and the response is dimmed, but you consume more content to fill that gap to get your dopamine rush. You do it again at another point, with even more content because you need that pleasure response. Eventually, to the detriment of one thing or another, you add those memes into your daily life constantly, not because the memes feel good, but because it feels good to consume them. It wears down your attention span and ability to be patient because now you need humor and you need it now. It's like an addiction. And my dad always says, people with an addiction are chasing after their first high again, but can never find it because that high is unattainable. Alright though. Let's say you are some meme god or a messiah of comedy and humor. You can create top quality memes and jokes that are able to last an incredible length of time, transcend cultures, and brighten up the room. Again though, nothing lasts forever. People have the bad habit of sharing everything around. And that meme can go from having a long shelf life of a few months or so down to a couple weeks because everyone with a validation problem, a need for vindication, or attention issues has to milk it dry. Then you're having to constantly make them to keep the masses sated, or copy, remix, rehash, and or reference other memes en masse in order to keep the train going. But humans aren't machines. We can keep going, sure, but eventually we break down. A machine malfunctioning means it needs to be stopped and maintained. A human hitting a biological malfunction means stopping and taking a break. And that break means your spot is then taken over by other people doing the same shtick while you're out sick or taking a mental health week or month. Then once you're back in top shape, you have to either give up and go home or wear yourself down again just to reach where you were prior. Trying to capitalize on yourself as a meme is also a horrible idea because, well, when you have no other skills you can pivot to, you're a one-trick pony. But I'll be fair and play along for a moment. So in this hypothetical scenario, you manage to rake in a large audience with your gimmick or skit. You have enough people to support your career for a few years, and enough money earned from this endeavor to live comfortably. And a few brand deals and some merchandise to sweeten the pot. Alongside that, you have fellow content creators and influencers to work off of and collaborate with. And after saying all of that, you may wonder, what's the downside? Well, you're just a meme. A fleeting cultural memetic. And when you have nothing but memes, you gradually fade from the public eye because people get tired of the same skit, the same song and dance. Then there's also the possibility that when someone else copies your gimmick, albeit in a different manner, to a much greater degree of success, you're most likely going to be senselessly arguing with people online instead of understanding that your time in the spotlight is naturally fading away. Your fellow creators and or friends may not be able to help you as much or at all because your entire world is built off a model of rapidly shifting cultural relevancy that is only being kept alive by the diminishing returns of your vast audience's dopamine receptors. That money may not last long either because if you're greedy, you put it and your livelihood on the line because you keep trying to synthesize new memes or attempt to find new ways in order to keep your audience engaged, but inevitably, all of that starts to wane away. With everything finally culminating in some random guy on the internet damaging your ego so badly that you crash out and lose it all. Your presence, your financial stability, your friends in that entertainment space. And then a few months later, you probably become a political grifter on Kick, Rumble, or wherever else because, as far as I know, you don't have any other marketable skills to pivot towards, and you didn't try and develop any when you had eyes on you or when your fleeting cultural relevance was finally snuffed out. Now, that aside, I don't really care what happens to your hypothetical internet career in the distant future because after I'm done here, I'll mostly forget about you in a week's time and be working on another video and dealing with personal agendas. So whoopity-doo if someone sends this to your new channel or your email or social media page, and you make a video, short, or post about me online in a derogatory fashion. Congratulations on your empty validation and superiority. And that, everyone, aside from many other things that could be said here, is why I believe meme channels are short-lived. I don't want to emulate them or try to be a meme channel because that would set me up for long-term failure. I'd have to constantly be overworking myself to try and stay relevant, fighting with the flow of culture and society instead of influencing the next generation. Always having to use underhanded and deplorable tactics to stay ahead of the competition, and I don't want to crash out and flounder around like a feckless child, fall from the public's good graces, and then be the topic of a mediocre, poorly researched, and overblown drama video or generic 4-hour internet documentary that doesn't get to the heart of the issue and only serves to make its creator look and sound smart. And I do my best to try and not get myself caught up in those channels or their pointless drama wars, because I want to be happy when I choose to be happy, and enjoy those little finite moments. Memes are a fun little distraction at the end of the day. But unfortunately, in today's society, the constant tribalism, the unmitigated consumption, and the persistent need to create more to stay relevant or financially stable in our cutthroat late capitalism hellscape has put a damper on that. Memes aren't ruined, dead, or gone. We're just in an oversaturation period. One where it's tough for people to let go of that 24/7 access to information and dopamine whenever they want. And one where wrapping oneself up in a glut of content to avoid confronting reality is more tantalizing than facing it. I love memes too, don't get me wrong, but at some point you have to enjoy them in moderation and realize that trying to be funny or happy all the time is going to cost more time and energy than it's worth. That the harder you try to make memes or the positive emotion from them stay around longer, the faster they'll slip through your fingertips. I'm Mr. J, and hey, what's that thing behind you?